project where I, Kenneth Salyers, will be exporting pennyboard decks to the UK. A pennyboard is basically a small plastic skateboard. It's very small, which makes it more portable, and the material, plastic, makes it more durable than the average wooden skateboard or longboard. It costs around $7 to order a plain, colored pennyboard deck from a distributor. The color eliminates the typical demand for art, which would add to the price of a board deck significantly. The chosen location to export to is the UK, a very urban and heavily populated area. The influx of immigrants recently makes their population on the younger side for a first world country, with 30% being under the age of 25. An ideal demographic to sell this product to, since it appeals to youth. 83% of the population of the UK lives in urban areas, which is also ideal for the concept of a pennyboard, because whether it's used for tricks, transportation, or fun, the city is an ideal location with paved roads, rails, and easy access to public transportation. The pennyboards are also very easy to carry around, can fit in backpacks, and can cut huge times out of people who are taking the public transport. Since 13% of the population is unemployed in the UK, chances are they won't own cars and will need to use public transportation, another reason why pennyboards will work well in the UK. The trade relationship between the US and the UK is very strong. They're each other's largest investors, investing in over $1 trillion in each other total. These investments led to the creation of jobs, with more than 1.1 million Americans working for British companies in America. Jobs that are typically high-paying and good quality. Examples could include manufacturing, technology-based jobs, and financial services. Overall, the trade ties are strong between the UK and the US, with the UK being the fourth largest export destination for American goods and services, and the US is the seventh largest trading partner with the UK overall. Over 42,000 US companies work internationally with the UK, and 7,500 have operations based in the UK. The US has also exported around $123 billion worth of goods and services to the UK, and have imported around $111 billion worth of goods and services from the UK. In 2015, when the US faced a trade deficit overall of about $1 billion, the UK wasn't the cause, with the US enjoying a $14 billion surplus in goods and services from them, which helped them significantly during a trade deficit. Overall, the trade relationship between the US and the UK has a long history of being mutually beneficial and strong. However, the UK is no longer part of the European Union. The European Union has a trade agreement with the US called the Transatlantic Trade and Investment Partnership, in which it promoted cheap and easier trade between the EU and the US. When the US left the EU, they left this trade agreement and are still in the process of creating a new trade agreement with the US. So, in order to import into the UK, one must cover the cost of insurance, transportation, and a value-added tax of 20% when it enters the country. On top of this, one must account for the currency exchange rate, since the pound is worth more than the dollar. With all this taken into account, I can estimate to sell pennyboards at a price of about £30, not too far from the price of a board deck at a typical skateboard shop like Zumiez. There are other issues when it comes to exporting and importing goods. The lack of a trade agreement isn't the only one, and when exporting into the UK, there are political and other economic barriers that should be taken into account. For example, tensions between Donald Trump and Theresa May currently are running pretty high. Donald Trump initially supported Brexit, however, After it went into effect, the UK's economy struggled slightly, losing one of their biggest investors, the EU. After it went into effect, Donald Trump did nothing to help, like previously promised. Trump has also recently been adamant about putting down tariffs and making free trade more difficult, which in turn could cause tariffs to be placed against the US. These two political issues need to be accounted for in case tariffs are put into place. For example, the tariff the US has put down on steel and aluminum. Luckily, this one only applies to raw materials, and I'm importing plastic skateboard decks. However, the weaker trading system that the UK currently has bodes well, since they will need as much international business as possible in order to preserve the current trade relationship with the US and other nations. So in the future, they can have a more secure trade agreement put into place. Socially, the UK is a great place to trade because there is no language barrier, since this first language spoken there is English. And on top of this, the cultural differences, especially in youth culture, are not significant enough to warrant a change in the way the product is presented. Since the UK and the US have such similar popular cultures, movies come from Hollywood, music comes from Hollywood, the youth culture surrounding schooling and testing is very similar, etc. Skateboards can be marketed through popular culture, and the way they are advertised can remain fairly similar. The largest barrier that needs to be overcome is the lack of a trade agreement. However, the US and the UK are still in talks about a trade agreement and are expected to eventually have a new agreement put into place that is mutually beneficial. For now, selling decks at around £30 each, I can make about a £3 to £7 profit. And if a trading agreement is put into place in the future, which can help either bring down the price and help me sell more boards, or can increase my profits if I keep the price the same. My sources were Quora, Export.gov, the CIA World Factbook, The Atlantic, and the Chamber of Commerce of the United States of America. Thank you very much.